Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's third and final video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days. For today's final video, day 10 will take us to around the 23rd of October. And we'll be able to extend out beyond that. We extend GFS and ECM ensembles, maybe it's around a couple of weeks. Have a look at CFS V2 at the end of the video for the next 4 weeks. Which is going to take us well into the first half of November now. So I should get on that for you very short. Just say about the first video is saying was our 7 a.m. Forecast. We've also released the USA forecast. It was on Wednesday. Have a look at weather for the United States. So check out those two videos. If you'd like to do that, please like, share, subscribe on all our videos. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, we're going to start off with central temperatures. So the CT is still sitting at 12.9 degrees. That's 1 degree above average. That's provisional to the 12th of October. Quite stable at the moment. Not really moving a great deal. I suspect that's probably going to lift up a little bit, maybe over the next few days. It's going to be relatively mild, and then will probably drop next week as it turns cooler and more unsettled. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're at Northampton, local to me today. So red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Northampton. We're starting off around to slightly below average at the moment. We're going to see the upper air temperature lifting up over the next 24 hours or so. Bit of a drop down coming up towards the end of the week. So Friday will be a little bit colder, particularly so in the north. And then we're going to the weekend. And it gets quite mild over the weekend. So very up and down over the next few days. Really quite zonal. As we move through into like the last 10 days or so of October, don't look as though we might see a more general sort of sustained cool down there, going quite close to average. But there's still quite a bit of up and down going on within those ensembles, I think, with warmer and cooler sectors alternating. Precipitation-wise, got lots more dry weather to come through the rest of the week and into the weekend, but it will be turning more unsettled over the weekend and into next week. Looks really quite unsettled. Lots of rainfall spikes coming through there. Big change on the way. I think next week something much more unsettled, a lot wetter. Of course, next week was, of course, we spoke about that in the video yesterday. Another way of looking at this change is through sea level pressure. So this chart is showing the GFS ensembles in terms of the sea level pressure. So we're starting with relatively high pressure at the moment in Northampton, starting around 1,030 millibars. Very gradually, there's a decline in sea level pressure taking place there through the weekend. By the time we get into next week, we've actually gone into genuinely low pressure under 1,000 millibars. Possibly signs of a little bit of a recovery in pressure taking place towards the final days of October, perhaps going back up to close to 1,020 millibars. So we might start to see some higher pressure coming in into the final week of October, but certainly the third week of October does look much more unsettled. Temperature anomalies on the 13th to 21st of October are going to be warmer than average, and precipitation anomalies from the 13th to 21st of October. Overall, a little bit wetter than average in the far northwest of the country, drier than average in the south and east of the country. I think we will see these precipitation anomalies trending wetter, over the next few days. Latest wind flow map from earthnorthschool.net shows that high pressure is still controlling the weather for the time being. There is quite a bit of low pressure out in the Atlantic. We've got various areas of low pressure in the Atlantic Ocean at the moment. High pressure carries on, but I think this high pressure days are numbered and will break down as we go through the weekend and into next week. This is how the UK Met midnight run is looking for midnight on Saturday. High pressure still ridging through the country as we go to weekend. Gradually over weekend, that high pressure declines, and into the open up next week, this deepening area of low pressure gets closer to us. It does pull up quite a warm southerly southwesterly wind ahead of it, though, so early next week will go very mild, but we'll also have a band of heavy rain pushing eastwards, and by the time we get through to this time next week, which is as far as we go with the UK Met, to midnight on Wednesday the 20th of October, we're genuinely unsettled by deep low pressure in the Atlantic, spells of rain pushing across the country with quite strong winds and cooler temperatures as well. So all change by the middle of next week. GFS midnight run looks like that. So again, high pressure ridges through the country at the start of the weekend. It will gradually weaken over weekend into open up next week. Turns increasingly unsettled, heavy rain moving in off the Atlantic will pull up quite a warm southwesterly wind with that, though. So the early part of next week should be very mild, if not quite warm, but also increasingly wet. And then the middle and second half of next week, we push heavy rain through the country and then open the doors to a much cooler and very showery west to northwest wind. Type back tide for us, so it could be gale force winds next week, and just looking very unsettled then as we move up towards day 10, although day 10 does build up, which is 23rd of October, does build up this little transient ridge. In more extended range, so pressure relatively high for southern southwestern areas, always more unsettled to the north and to the northwest. So in the south there might be a return to drier weather through the last week of October. Northern and western areas look more unsettled. So the 6Z is looking, so again high pressure dominating over or at the start of the weekend, and more or less carrying on through most of the weekend, but will be gradually weakening. So by the early part of next week, low pressure does move in off the Atlantic, bringing outbreaks of quite heavy rain and also quite a mild southwesterly wind. Into the middle and second half next week, we go into a cooler or colder, even westerly or northwesterly. That will bring in strong winds, maybe gale force winds, and heavy showers as well. A bit of a northerly there with 6Z as we get to the end of next week. That's 22nd of October, turning wind into the north. That'll be colder. Scotland will bring some overnight frost and maybe some wintry showers to far north of Scotland by day 10. The next low is moving in, back in the wind, back around to a west or southwesterly direction. Into the more extended range, just stays really quite unsettled. So this is Monday, 25th of October, deep low pressure around the country. Further spells of rain, especially focus on more southern and eastern areas. And then right at the very end, we perhaps get some higher pressure building into the south, but lower pressure will again be out to the west and to the northwest. This is Albert GM. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please give smash the like button. Make sure you sub to the channel. Thank you so much everybody for doing that. And drop a comment. Let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. This is Albert GM. Once again, a ridge of high pressure through the country on Saturday. And then the ridge gradually breaking as we go through the rest of the weekend and into the open half. Next week, low pressure comes in off the Atlantic. That brings spells of rain with it, and as we go through the middle and second half next week, very unsettled, deep low pressure rolling in off the Atlantic. Could be some gale force winds the second half next week, and also quite cool as well, particularly in the north, with spells of rain and just looks very unsettled up to day 10 with the GEM. So properly autumnal, wet and windy next week. And then the ECM looking like that again, a ridge through the country on Saturday, gradually breaks down as we go through into Sunday, but it's really next week that it turns increasingly wet and windy with low pressure moving in from off the Atlantic. Always relatively warm though in this southeastern corner, heavy rain out to the west and to the northwest, and with time that wet weather does transfer further and further eastwards. By day 10, the ECM takes the low pressure away to the east and actually starts pulling something of a colder northerly wind once again. And that might turn showers wintry across the northern hills of Scotland. This is a precipitation forecast based on that ECM run from tomedShow.com. So for the next few days, plenty of dry weather. There will be a cold front coming southwards on Thursday into Friday. That will be a weakening feature, but it might bring some wet weather to the southeast corner. But essentially a lot of dry weather into the weekend. And then by the end of the weekend, early next week, rain is starting to push in from off the Atlantic. And that just accelerates then through next week, turning really very wet through the early part of next week with heavy rain driving in from off the Atlantic, and further bouts of wet weather then moving in from the Atlantic right way up to day 10. Regular spells of rain to come. These are the options on the table within the ECM ensemble today for day 10 from the Icelandic Met Office. Gets us to the 23rd of October. 14 members of the ECM ensembles have a mid-Atlantic ridge up towards Greenland with a trough of below average heights low pressure to our east. That pulls the wind into the north, so unsettled and quite cold at day 10 with that particular option. 9 will have high pressure away to our northwest, but also low pressure to our south-southwest. So that's just generally quite unsettled, and it's trying to bring in some colder air from the north. 9 with low pressure over to the east of the country. That looks really quite wet and unsettled. 8 with low pressure to our east. High pressure ridging out to west. Winds again in from the north. That looks quite unsettled too. 7 with low pressure to our northeast. High pressure is in the middle of the Atlantic. Winds in from a northwesterly direction. And then just 4 will have us under an area of high pressure on the 23rd of October, and perhaps pulling in a little bit of a cold easterly wind. That's going to be a drier option, but most of the options actually seem to involve low pressure, so unsettled and quite cool potentially at daytime with a lot of those options. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This gets us to the 28th of October, 17 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure over and to the east of the country. Very unsettled with that one. 15 with low pressure away to the northwest. High pressure just pushing up from the southwest a little bit. Turning things a little bit drier there. 11, probably quite mild actually with that as well. 11 with high pressure right over top of the country. That will be mostly dry. We could be bringing in something of a cool easterly type flow. And then 8 with low pressure to our east, high pressure to our southwest. There should be quite a bit of dry weather with that to the south and to the southwest. But to the east, probably still quite unsettled. And that could be still a little bit on the cool side with winds in from like a northwesterly direction, probably. Generally looking quite unsettled, I have to say, through the second half of October. Right, so CFS V2 last evening is the 500 millibar heights broken down to week periods. The first week period will take us from the 13th to the 19th of October. The coming week will have this ridge building or to our southwest, but gradually actually being broken down. So the ridge is being broken down in weekend and it is turning more unsettled. So by the time we get through to week 2, which is the 20th to 26th of October, low pressure it's just dominating the weather, quite deep low pressure as well, bringing spells of rain and relatively cool weather, probably too. Week 3 will be the 27th of October to the 2nd of November. High pressure then begins to build up from the southwest, taking the low pressure away to the northwest. That begins to move the jet stream northwards, turns us drier and probably rather milder as well, with winds in from a southwesterly direction. And then we get through to week 4, which will be the 3rd to the 9th of November, with high pressure to our south, low pressure away to our northwest. So yeah, a lot of dry weather with that, especially for southern areas, and potentially very mild too. Very mild first half to November with winds in from a southwesterly direction, just keeping this mild autumn going, I suppose. Right, if you enjoyed the video, please can you smash the like button, make sure you're sub to the channel. Thank you so much, dear mate. You'll be able to see future weather content if you do that. Tell your friends and family to subscribe as well. That's amazing, that's incredible. Thank you for doing that. And drop a comment and let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. And we're done with today's videos. So tomorrow, just so it's coming tomorrow, we're going to have the, what we have tomorrow, we're going to have the 7 AM forecast, have the European outlook as well, and a 10 to 14 day coming up for you tomorrow as well. So keep checking back to the channel for all of the updates. But for today's videos, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.